whistleblower and the witness protection law will also give incentive for those blowing the whistle on corruption. When you report the corruption and the people retrieve the money, you will get 5% as your reward for reporting. When you report it, and the law will back you, so nobody will do anything to you.
Are you really sure of the things you are talking?
Oh yes, the government now put in place the ombudsman.
So what think the ombudsman then will be doing, Sarah?
The ombudsman will investigate violation of the code of conduct. It will make sure that people working in government act properly and that they don't do things anyhow.
I see. Sarah, tell me more about the witness protection law.
Samuel, that law calls for the establishment of a witness protection unit to protect those testifying against corrupt people in court.
No man. I hope the unit can open soon so we can feel safe to report corruption and talk about it in court.
If you still want to know more about the anti-corruption laws, you can reach Cental's advocate.
What is this? We really fall down inside.
Fall down inside waiting here.
Amen. For God's sake, Sarah, you don't have eyes to see stealing all over this country here?
Well, wait and see. The solution is on its way.
Waiting? What? You get corruption and mismanagement of government resources is affecting our way of living here?
Yeah, it is true, but some efforts are being made to stop it.
I beg you, what effort?
We now have the new anti-corruption laws, including the new Anti-Corruption Commission Act (NACA), the whistleblower law, and the witness protection law that are in place to strengthen the fight against corruption. So you see, solution is on its way.
Waiting good say will come from out of it. It will be another blood and story. Let me go in my little corner here and watch them steal again.
No dear, this time around the new Anti-Corruption Commission Act (NACA) gives LACC the power to go directly to court with corruption cases without going through the Ministry of Justice.
Would this be for the social good to benefit those who are abused by stealing our resources, including me, dear? Hey, Sarah, what's making news? What making news? That Sarah hurting my head here with this anti-corruption story. But I heard here, there's something good. Samuel, do you know what you are talking? When government people just getting rich in a twinkling of an eye, while we the poor people getting poorer every day?
Dear, the whistleblower and the witness protection law will also give incentive for those blowing the whistle on corruption. When you report the corruption and the people retrieve the money, you will get 5% as your reward for reporting. When you report it, and the law will back you, so nobody will do anything to you.
Are you really sure of the things you are talking?
Oh yes, the government now put in place the ombudsman.
So what think the ombudsman then will be doing, Sarah?
The ombudsman will investigate violation of the code of conduct. It will make sure that people working in government act properly and that they don't do things anyhow.
I see. Sarah, tell me more about the witness protection law.
Samuel, that law calls for the establishment of a witness protection unit to protect those testifying against corrupt people in court.
No man. I hope the unit can open soon so we can feel safe to report corruption and talk about it in court.
If you still want to know more about the anti-corruption laws, you can reach Cental's advocate.
Area, our homeland, a future bright we see, with honest hearts and open hands for you and for me. But shadows creep and darkness hides where secrets like to stay. Cental steps into the light to chase those clouds away. Shine a light on every corner, clear and bright. Transparency's the guiding star to take us near and far. Accountability, the solid ground where justice can be found. Cental sings, Cental strives for a Liberia that truly thrives. From ministries to market stalls, from city streets to farms, we're watching close, We're asking all to keep us safe from harms. No more backroom deals and lies, no more corruption sting. With Cental standing by our side, a better future we will bring. Shine a light, on every corner clear and bright. Transparency's the guiding star to take us near and far. Accountability, the solid ground where justice can be found. Cental sings, Cental strives for a Liberia that truly thrives.
Good morning, wherever you are. This is Accountability Hour, and this program is aired on the station every Wednesday at about this time, and is the production of the communication section at the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia. We are the national chapter for Transparency International. And Transparency International is the global coalition against corruption. They have chapters and networks in 120 countries around the world. And in Liberia, Cental is the national chapter for Transparency International. So most of what we do at Cental, all of our activities, our programs are tailored in line with what Transparency International does. And that's just what we do. And this program is an activity of our National Integrity Building and Anti-Corruption Program. It is a 3 years program that is funded entirely by the government and people of Sweden through the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency, SIDA. My name is Edward Blamo. I am your host, and as well, I am the Media and Communications Officer at Cental. And this morning, we will be talking about something very important, and we have folks from the road safety. We have the executive director of the Road Safety Action International, Eric Gabriel Jen Judges. We will also have Aaron Zuba. He's the acting coordinator for the Road Safety Secretariat at the Ministry of Transport. And we will be placing spotlight this morning on road safety and accountability, including the revision of the 1972 vehicle and traffic laws of Liberia, and how we can together hold ourselves accountable, because we are all users of the roads, and we have drivers and we have other actors, all of who are, part and parcel of this whole road sector. So we will be talking more about that later on, but before we do that, we will take a few bars of this.
Cental sings, Cental strives for a Liberia that truly thrives. It takes us all, both big and small, to build a nation strong, to stand for truth and give our all, and right where things went wrong. So raise your voice and join the call, let honesty take flight. Together we can break the fall and fill our land with light. Shine a light.
Welcome back to the program Accountability Hour, and as we've stated, this program is a part of our communication and information dissemination strategy at Cental. This is where we promote active citizens' participation in the fight against corruption. We bring different stakeholders, different actors to talk about, transparency and accountability and efforts to promote these and the fight against corruption. And before we do that, we're just, we're doing a couple of things at Cental, a lot of things, different programs, different activities, different projects. But key to what we do at Cental is this research, because this is one way that we evaluate ourselves, we evaluate the progress we're making at Cental. If you're just working, and you don't know how far you've come and what progress you've made and what are the efforts and what are some of the challenges you have, it makes it difficult to know where you're standing. And that's why at Cental we believe in research, and we do that every year. And that research is called the State of Corruption Report. And that is, produced as a local context to the Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index. So we do a lot of promotion for that CPI report. It's an international report. It reflects different countries and different perceptions about corruption. But we thought to localize that and place more focus and some of the limitations of the CPI report. We go beyond those limitations as part of our State of Corruption report, placing specific spotlight on Liberia and the efforts to promote corruption and the efforts, to promote the culture of accountability in Liberia. And I would just read you a few findings from the report. It's not, there are a couple of them. I would just go through very few of them. And it says corruption levels decline for the first time yet remain high. What that means is that 83% of the people we surveyed in 9 counties, they believed that corruption level in the country was high in 2024, representing a 7% decline from the previous report. So, mind you, if we say corruption level decline for the first time yet remain high, it means even though the numbers came down by 7% from our survey, yet corruption level remains high in Liberia because 83% or 83 of every 100 people we spoke to said corruption level was high, and that's a very high number. If you get 83 of every 100 persons saying corruption level is high, it means it's very high. That's a very concerning statistics. That was against 90% of respondents who held a belief in 2023, 2022, and 2021 that corruption level was high. So that is the progress we're referring to. In 2022, 23, even 2021, 90% of the people we spoke to said corruption level was high. In 2024, 83% said so. Also, corruption persists in public services. The police remain the most prone, or we could say the most corrupt of all of the public services or people who run the public services. The data says 71% of respondents ranked police services are more prone to corruption, representing a 2% decline from 73% in 2023. Medical services come in the second place, with 46% of those surveys citing medical services as the most corrupt. This represents a 13% decline from 59% in the previous report. So there are, few droplets of the numbers, but it's still insignificant to see any drastic, profess any drastic change in relations to perception around corruption in Liberia. So we have a lot of work to do. Court services fall in third place and decline from 38% in 2023 to 26%, followed by educational services also experiencing a decline from 31% to 24%. So yes, that's what people think about corruption, and this report is on our website. It's at www.cental.org.lr. Once you access that, you go to Documents folder, you have access to our report, and you can read the full report. This is a very voluminous report. It's more than 80 pages, so you have different analyses, different, trends of corruption and, different things. We do desk reviews. We do key informant interviews. We also analyze the trends of corruption from different media reports and different things. We compare with previous years. So it's a document that you can reference whenever you are doing a research about corruption. You want to know what it looks like. You can always reference our report and get the facts. That is that, and we will now turn to our guests, and we have Eric Jen Judges. He's the executive director of the Road Safety Action International. These folks are they're advocacy group. I don't know what I can categorize you as.
Civil society organization.
Okay, so you're a civil society organization. Your work is to promote road sector accountability and others. Yeah. And we also have, let me get the name correct, Aaron Zuba. He's the acting coordinator for Road Safety Secretariat at the Ministry of Transport. And we'll be talking road accountability. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning, Edward.
How's everything?
It's okay.
So let us begin with you, Eric. we have how is the Road Safety Action International first?
Well, Road Safety Action International is doing quite well, so to speak. We are grateful to our partners, uh, the international organizations that we are affiliated with, and the government of the Republic of Liberia, mainly the Ministry of Transport, the National Road Fund, the Ministry of Public Works, and all the institutions that are responsible for road safety in our country. We work very hard along with these institutions to strengthen the road safety sector. So yeah, Road Safety Action International, as an advocacy group, we try to balance the situation. Yeah, we sometimes lash our partners for not taking enough action.
Okay.
But then also when they take action, we have to applaud them for taking action. So yeah, so we're doing quite well. We're doing quite well. Thanks for
Okay,
asking.
let's hear from Aaron too. Can you tell us a little bit about that secretariat at the Ministry of Transport? How does it work? How does it look like? What's the structure like?
Okay, thanks so much. The role of secretary is a composition of 5 ministries: the Ministry of Transport, Public Works, Education, Ministry of Justice, and the Ministry of Health. So the 5 ministries are there executing different functions. And the Ministry of Transport is a lead on what the Interministerial Council. So by virtue of their position, the secretary hosted at the Ministry of Transport.
Okay.
And each of the ministry has 2 representatives at the Ministry of Transport, but one is situated at Transport and one is hosted at the ministry itself. So the one at the ministry, they're the liaison between what the secretary and that of the ministry to disseminate information from the secretary to the ministry. So this is a composition of the Water Road Safety Secretary.
Okay, so we have a very big issue on our hand as relates to road accidents. September 2024 data states that 157 accidents and 23 fatalities from road issues. I mean, that's a lot of people that are getting hurt and a lot of people dying from road accidents. But what does that mean? What are you doing? What are some of the efforts that you're making to ensure that this number is reduced?
Well, I mean, every time we talk about the statistics,
You can come near the microphone a little
personally
bit.
for me, I don't like to put, the road safety issues as statistics because those are real people.
Okay.
We're losing mothers, fathers, children. So it's disheartening. When you read out the numbers, especially for a country like Liberia with a population of pretty over 5 million people or so, right? We shouldn't be, having the amount of numbers of people that have been affected by road accident or road crashes. And always I like to put Liberia's road safety issue in a global context so that you know where we stand. In fact, Liberia ranks in the top tier of the countries that are affected by road accident. In fact, we rank number 4 so in the top tier of all the countries that are affected by road accident. We're literally killing around 37 per every 100,000 people. I heard you reading the corruption index, and I was kind of shaking my head. The same way people say 83 of every 100 persons you interview said, corruption is an issue in Liberia. It's the same. Out of every 100 persons, right, 100 people, we are killing around 37.
Wow.
It's a really troubling number. And just from September alone, you see the statistics you're having there. So the situation, yes, is bad. And we should do something about it. We should be accountable to ourselves. And the government should be accountable to its citizens. When you're building road infrastructure, when you're having traffic regulation, when you're having, in fact, regulation of the transport sector as a whole, safety should be a component. And we continue to say this. You can't build road without any safety measures. You can't allow vehicles be imported into the country without any safety measures. You can't give people driver lessons without any safety consideration. And so we should speak to that because the numbers is troubling. The numbers keep telling us that we are not doing a lot. And we should do a lot.
Yes. So part of the solution could be looking at the laws, and when you look at the current law, the vehicle and traffic laws of Liberia, you look at the year 1972. That's a long time ago. So, I mean, what are efforts geared towards ensuring that first we can come to terms with reality, and that goes to you from the secretariat. How are we making sure that we can, ensure that, we come to terms with present day realities?
Okay, first, I want to say Eric Chen thanks. They are NGO, RSAI is doing well in pushing this agenda. I would like to encourage other road safety organizations in the country to join in. How we can make this for us a Liberian fight. They the World Bank in 2022 hired a consultant to revisit the 1972 vehicle and traffic law to see these components that want to encourage the reality of the law of the land, because since 1972, almost 50 years plus. So the consultant hired, we did some amendment to the law. The law was revised. I said the point, but we're not able to take it at the president office to move forward to the national legislature to be amended. So later on, when we decided to take the law forward, other stakeholders saw the law. There were some issues that were not addressed, and through the Ministry of Transport, Minister Cental saw the wisdom in the law. Say, can we relook at this revived law we did in 2022?
Okay.
It's based on the background that we have brought the law back again to all of the stakeholders, so we can revisit the law and see what were missing when not in the law, so it can be a holistic law that will represent the country. And when it gets to the legislature, that the public hearing process will not be a longer process.
Okay.
It will be a much easier process. And the World Bank initiated the engagement, and the road form through the Ministry of Transport is finalizing this engagement.
Okay, so when you look at the previous law and this new one you're trying to look at, the revised or version of the law, what are some of the key things? What are some of the key takeaways?
So some of the key away, the new law, the old law never talk about child restraint.
Okay.
It never talk about motorbike helmet, and at that time, motorbike were not used as a transport mode for the country.
Okay.
And not about distracted driving. At that point, we now have cell phone in the system. People use cell phone. And so these are some of the components. The police cannot charge somebody who misbehaving, because there are no charges in the current law to charge them. And we're trying to look at
charge them for what?
Charge them for the offense.
Which offense?
So if a bike rider is driving a helmet, but there's no law in the book that says
the current law does not have that regulation.
Yes, it does not have no child restraint there. No laws in a law does not say if you put the child in the back seat, you put a restraint belt. The restraint the child is not there. The law does not talk about seat belt.
So how is the police running after motorcyclists to get a helmet when the current law does not say so?
So the police trying to intervene to arrest some of the situation. It may not be in the law, but for the benefit and the safety for public safety and us, I think in the best way possible. That's why we want to strengthen the law to get MOT to bite.
Okay.
And as a local, we all want to work together and make it work better.
Yeah. So Eric, what are other takeaways that you identified in the new law?
Well, basically, there are a lot of takeaways, right? But I quickly want to go back to the question you asked in terms of what are we doing with this law. Aaron rightly put it, that there have been a lot of investments. In fact, when we came on board 3 years ago, the fundamental for us to start talking about the road safety sector was for us to review the laws that are on the books, right? To understand what are the things that we have as instruments to use to enforce or to enhance the sector. So when we look at the 1972 law and we compare it to present day reality, there were a lot of things that were outside of the books. And he rightly mentioned, for example, if you are having a child under 5 years old in your car, that child should be in a car, in a restraint carrier called the child restraint seat, right? So because when there is an issue, the impact will be lower. That's why, and the study has proven that, global study across the world has proven that, right? So these were the things that are kind of lacking, and there are a lot more we can talk about it. But
Okay.
because of the lack of that fundamental, we couldn't push the government and the institutions responsible on many of these issues. So now we went back to the books and said, if we would do this right, as a civil society organization, as an advocacy organization, if we push the people to do the right thing, it means their fundamental must be right. So that's why we are here, and that's why we are now having this conversation.
Okay.
Like he mentioned, there was a consultant that came in and worked with the different institutions
Okay.
to look at provisions within the law.
Okay.
There were provisions that were revised, yes, but there are still questions because the unique situation of Liberia. So the Minister of Transport, in his wisdom, said, look, take this back to the sector. Bring together all the actors within the sector, from international institutions, development partners, international NGOs, and all government institutions that are responsible, and have a validation exercise. Do a deep dive.
Okay.
So as we speak, we are going into that deep dive.
Okay, so I have a copy of the law before me, and I'm seeing here modernizing driver licensing and education. Why do you think that is important?
Well, it's quite important, and Aaron will speak more to that because it's from transport. But from our side, every time we attend to road crashes, to victims, we see that there are a lot of discrepancy in terms of the people that are driving. Sometimes there are even some people driving without driver lessons. Sometimes there are people driving with outdated driver lessons. Sometimes there are people driving that are driving outdated vehicles, right? Vehicles that are not roadworthy, right? So when the driver lesson is brought up to par, and the police that is responding to a road crash can right online check to see if this person has a valid driver lesson, could be a first step to the investigation of that accident.
So we're going to get that system.
Yes, that should be a part of it. As long as the law says that should be, I know in the ministry in its wisdom will prepare to raise the vehicle lessoning and driver lesson issue at an electronic stage where people can be able to access it across the country.
Okay, so when I look through the law, it's saying the law designates the Ministry of Transport as the sole licensing authority. It introduces provisional licenses for young drivers under supervision. What does that mean?
Well, it means, and like I said, Aaron will come to that, but it means that, compared to other countries, when you were 16, 17, you start learning how to drive.
Okay.
And by the time you are 18, you're an adult. So you're entitled to your driver lesson.
Okay.
That's when you're in the developed world. They say that's when your freedom starts.
Okay.
Right. So for us to be able to have that same pattern around 16, 17, we have temporary. It's called a learner lesson.
Okay.
We give you the learner lesson, giving you the right to start driving, but you have to be supervised at all times. So that means you can't take the vehicle alone. There must be an experienced driver in the vehicle with you.
Okay.
At all times.
Okay.
Yeah.
So also, this Ministry of Transport being the sole or licensing authority, what does that mean for this whole brouhaha around the outsourcing of the licenses to another company or blah blah blah? What does that mean?
So at this point, what I do know that the Ministry of Transport has this statutory responsibility to issue driver licenses and that our vehicle registrations to car owners. So I will spoke about the modernization of the driver lesson is that the driver lesson starts with about the driving school and what the road safety secretary had done through the interministerial council. 2 years ago, we had a survey that all of the driving schools in Liberia were teaching different curriculum. So under the Ministry of Education, we were to synchronize the driver curriculum, the school curriculum, and we distribute it to all the driving schools. So if you check with all of the driving schools now, they are all teaching one curriculum. And one of the requirements of obtaining the driver lesson, you must present a driving certificate. And that does not just qualify you. You must go through testing at the Ministry of Transport as a water, you understand the signs. So if you fail the sign, if you fail the testing, you got to go back again to be able to pass through the process and see how you can obtain a driver license. Because most of the people, most of the riders, if you're not trained to obtain a lesson, I call you a rider. Because a driver is one who understands the rules of the road, the signs along the street. I'm not saying accident will not occur, but the chance of accident occurring, it will be slim because you understand the rules of the road and how to engage the pedestrians and other commuters along the road.
And just to add up to what Aaron mentioned, right? And this issue is a contentious issue, right? And I believe that's why this law is very necessary. The law is clear. The revised law is saying that the Ministry of Transport is the sole. You understand that word, right?
Yeah.
It's responsible. So the law is clear. The law is not ambiguous. The law is saying the Ministry of Transport is responsible. In the country that is moving...
So outsourcing the whole vehicle registration to another company will be against the law?
Should be the Ministry of Transport's responsibility. It's not against the law. It should be the Ministry of Transport's responsibility because the law is saying the Ministry of Transport is responsible. So if I'm responsible for something and I decide I want to bring in somebody because of my capacity or because I want to enhance, I want to enlarge, I want to expand, that's part of my responsibility that the law has given me.
Does the law give that provision, that kind of leverage to,
Yeah, I mean, when the law gives you the sole mandate to manage, to supervise, to regulate, then you now, as an institution, will be looking at the rudimentary for implementation.
So you're reviewing this law now. It's not yet, passed. So you're in validation period. Why don't you recommend or insert that portion that says the Ministry of Transport can, outsource some of their functions to different institutions?
But
is it spelled out already?
Of the establishment of the Ministry of Transport, the Ministry of Transport already has a responsibility to give us contract, to go into PPP, to go into anything, because it is the government's arm responsible for transport regulation. So it already has that. So you don't have to force that into a subset of the overall law that the Ministry of Transport has already.
Okay, so there's another provision here in this revised law, proposed law, because we were very careful. It's not law yet.
Yeah.
That talks about digital vehicle registration. How would that look like?
So, digital registration it sounds so difficult, like, bro, it's a common practice all around the world right now. You can take your phone. It will be an app developed by the Ministry of Transport. You put all the details. You pay online for your vehicle. You pay online for your lesson. You pay online for your vehicle registration. Then they will send you the code. If you get that code, you move to the Ministry of Transport. They verify as a whether you, the person you send all your particular details. Then it reduces the in-person inform. It slowed. It make the work much easier. But we give you the code, yes, my vehicle registration is supposed to expire on November the 15th. So I can sit there and pay for it. Then they'll give you a time. They say, we'll send a message in the next 2 days. You can come for your renewal document. You just move there and make it easier. So you get an ARA platform on the same, but you pay to ARA. It's a connected digital activities. So we try to reduce the kind of in-person at the water board. Most of the time, people go to the ministry. They say some people around looking for work. You know what they do? They say expedite or something. They take your money. They call you. They go to World Trade Center. They provide fake document. So we try to take all the things away. But that will be the best way going forward.
Okay, so we also have compulsory insurance and roadworthiness certification for all vehicles.
Yeah.
How will that be done?
I think that's one of the provisions that I have personally been advocating from.
Okay.
That there are several reasons why we are having all these road crashes and road fatalities and injuries and all of that. And the reasons come from the vehicle we use, to the road infrastructure, to our behavior and all of that. In fact, in road safety, we call them the payloads. Right? So if we take care of the roads, for example, we build good roads, but then we are importing 40 vehicles, we'll still be having road accidents. If we have importing good vehicles, we're having good roads, but then people behavior towards the way they drive is still bad, then we'll still be having road crashes, right? So the stipulation in there is to make sure that we have a roadworthiness inspection done on every vehicle that has been imported and has been driven into the country. So that vehicle must be roadworthy to drive the road, because by doing that, you reduce the chances of that vehicle, getting involved into road crash due to mechanical fault.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so as Ira was saying, I have to be honest under the conversation. When you say the vehicle is worthy, the road has to be worthy. So you can't be saying left, you'll be saying right. Or the both of the guys work competently in addressing the issue facing the country.
Okay.
So as if we as a government institution got to do well with the road. Before we design a road, we should not just be concerned about the pavement where the car will pass. Do the driver shoulder? Where do the pedestrian pass? And since motor back have already engulfed in the society at one or the other. The mode of transport, we need to start designing our roads.
Okay.
To move the motorbike on a different lane, to not direct interfere with motor vehicle in the same lane. We not say it will be a charge, but we minimize it at a certain level. But we say being the road the same standards and say doing the same thing. So we'll be making progress, but the progress will be very slow. So in future designs, we can look at different instead of the Ministry of Public Works. I took a look at different and see how we design most especially for urban roads.
Okay. You're listening to Accountability Hour, and this program is a production of Cental, and this is where we call in policymakers and actors, civil society actors, government people, especially those providing services, to ensure that they can provide some level of transparency around their work, and also hold our leaders accountable. This morning, we have Eric Jen Judges. He's the Executive Director of the Road Safety Action International. We also have Aaron Zuba. He's the Acting Coordinator for the Road Safety Secretariat at the Ministry of Transport. And we were talking road safety and accountability. We were placing specific spotlight on the amendment or some amendments to the 1972 Vehicles and Traffic Laws of Liberia. Imagine 1972, when we didn't have, I don't even think we had motorbikes at the time plying the streets. So that was ever since, and they are making efforts. The government is making efforts to ensure that we can revise that law to come to terms with reality and put in place some measures that will improve road safety and can hold all of us accountable. The government should be accountable for, providing very decent roads and safe roads, and then the drivers or other road users could be accountable as well to ensuring that they, are properly trained and they are able to plow those roads orderly so that we can avoid fatalities. The numbers to call at this point are 0555 995 995 or 0777 700 995. Once you dial these numbers, you will be live on the program. Again, they are 0555 995 995, 0777 700 995. Let me make sure these lines are on. And once you dial these numbers, you will be live on the program Accountability Hour. Let's see whether we can take this person. Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, I'm sorry calling from nature, yeah?
Let's hear you.
Yeah, I'm just listening to our studio guest, to your studio guest, and the topic of discussion is very, very important. And one thing I heard from one of the executive directors was that before you hold somebody responsible, you got to hold the government also responsible for good roads. Because, see, one of the problems for road safety, I guess, is the bad roads that we have in the country. Because, you see, most times I've witnessed 2 accidents that were done because of a motorbike or car dodging or pop pole that led to a very serious accident. you won't say the car was defective. No, it wasn't the car fault. And because we are not actually holding the government responsible for spoiling our cars, I
Okay.
guess this is one of the issues that people are taking it very, very light. Government should be responsible. I bought my new car driving and then went into a hole. Who should pay for that? Who should hold me responsible for driving a defective car when the government does not take household responsibility serious?
Okay.
So that is one of the issues, and I really appreciate when one of the directors made correction to that. Said, look, you
Yes.
can't hold the defective cars until you do your own work.
Yes.
So I want to thank you for that. That was
Thank you very much.
And then, and that law that we're talking about, I think, is very, very belated.
Yes.
1972, 1982, 2002, you know, things have changed. We never had keke.
Yeah.
When we were growing up, we never had keke. We never had motorbike. Bicycle, maybe in Bon County, we need to see bicycle.
Yeah.
Right? But now, it's a fact. It's a reality that we must
Yes.
make sure that the motorbikes, the keke, or how you call them, should have a privilege of
Thank you.
having a way out.
Thank you very
So-
much. Thank you very much. Let's take this person. Good morning.
Good morning. This is Reverend Kenneth Jackson. I am very much interested in what the studio guests are saying. But one of the issues I've observed as they try to update the laws, we are in Africa, specifically Liberia. You cannot be breaking safety law. Like, you don't bring cars that are 20 years older in a country when you don't have roads. Because I have traveled to America. They have good roads, but you have 1847 cars that are in the street in the U.S. So you make things, government here make things difficult for the people to the extent that nobody will get cars. Nobody will get cars. Almost everybody will not have cars, which is not good. So as they update, they got to look at the contextual reality, the place we find ourselves. You can't be in the U.S., a sophisticated country that have all the rules, but they have cars that are older than 50 years. They stay in the country. Yeah, then you come to Liberia and say you don't bring in cars. You know, because of road safety and whatsoever, air pollution, you don't bring in cars that are 10 years older. You know, those kind of things can enslave people. And
Okay, thank you very much. I don't think it's
Edward,
exactly
let-
enslavement. I know you will respond to these concerns. Let me take this other person. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, let's hear you quickly. Just take notes of them. Yeah.
My name is Africanus Samuel, and I joined the conversation from Cental.
Go ahead.
So let me first of all appreciate the 14th studio. You know, they couldn't have done it better than what they are doing. The program is educative, and I think we as citizens we need to follow suit to see how we can get a system better.
Okay.
Because when we move to mobility, I think it is incumbent upon us to change things and then move in different directions.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's a very very
I
good
think
point.
you respond to that
And
too, and
you're going to respond. I mean, just with a little bit, you're going to respond.
Double A.
And yes, so you just take notes of them. And I think now you can respond now.
Yeah.
Yep.
So on the second quarter, Aaron will respond to the first quarter that talk about building good roads because he made that comment. But on the second quarter mentioned about the not restricting people bringing old models vehicle, right? And first, I just wanted to clarify that the vehicles, the old model vehicles you see being driven in Western countries, those are vehicles that their internal combustion engines have been remodeled to suit all of their regulations. In fact, the developed countries have strong regulation on air pollution. You and I know that. So you wouldn't carry a 1940 combustion engine that spill out carbon monoxide everywhere and you think you would drive it in the US. No way. The engines, the internal system has been remodeled, but the external features of the car remain the same because they love the fact that external features can go a long way in showing that the vehicle has lived, through different decades, right? That's something we need to clarify first of all. So, in fact, the EPA has a regulation. In that law, the EPA has a portion where the EPA will be regulating noise pollution. So there are some vehicles you're driving it and you can hear the heavy noise from the exhaust, right? So the EPA also has a provision that will strongly regulate that. So you cannot put a hole on your muffler and be passing around with noise.
Okay.
So all of that will be taken care of in this revised law. And I just wanted to mention that the first validation exercise for this law will happen at the Murrest Plaza on the 13th, which is tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay.
The first validation exercise. All of the National Road Safety Working Group members and the institutions within the road safety sector, the sector institutions are all notified already of this exercise. It will happen from 9 in the morning to 3 p.m. in the evening. It's a whole day exercise. And Edward, we are going to be debating every provisions of the law.
Okay,
that's
so
what we are calling every institution across the
another
board.
aspect, as you were saying, that the child restraint systems, you know, I mean, wouldn't it have issues? The implementation of that, wouldn't that have issues? Because he was talking about modeling those laws after developed countries, that the realities are not the same. You know, in Western countries, every vehicle will have child restraint, you know.
Yeah.
Those
But I
kind of
always say
stuff.
the reality are not the same.
Okay.
But the individuals are the same.
Are
The
you
individuals
considering
affected-
the different
individuals
contexts? Are you
yes.
considering the different
individuals
countries and
affected
contexts
by
as well?
road accidents are the same.
Okay.
Death is death, whether in America or in Liberia.
Okay.
We are considering the context. We are looking at Liberia's situation. But remember, when this law was developed and passed in 1972, the folks then look at the context at the time. You see where we are in 2025? It no longer fit the context. So as we are revising the law, we have to be open-minded enough to understand that the law we're revising now will live for the next 20, 30, maybe 40 years. So we need to look for provisions that will also look into the future.
Let's hear from Aaron. There's another part of the law that talks about pedestrian rights. You know, this sounds very strange. You know, pedestrians have a right now.
So, you know, we have been doing some public education on the zebra line. You see the white line across the road called the zebra line.
So let them make it very simple. Is that the crosswalk?
Yeah, the crosswalk.
Okay, yes. Okay, let's
So
get that up.
when you go to a driving school, you become the driver. When you approach that crosswalk, you will start to look left, you will start to look right, and see as to you engage and slow and lower your speed and see as to whether someone is at the end of the road who is about to cross. You ease your speed, the person cross. I can say if someone kill a pedestrian on a crosswalk with certain limit of speed, it's not an accident, it's a murder. I've never changed that.
But do you have that in the law? Have you reflected that in the law?
Yes,
Of the pedestrian is
it's
there.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
so we got to look at law. Some people say we should put some penalty measure, codifying what goes along with that right. So that's the reason why that revision going to take place.
So aside from that right, what other rights pedestrians have?
Okay, when the pedestrian approaches about the traffic light, when it turns red, it may stop. But some people don't respect it. And they don't even get the pedestrians to pass. And one of the things in the country is that the motorbike rather believe that our traffic light don't apply to them. So these are the rights. So everybody have a right to the road. Just as the driver and just as the pedestrian is.
Yeah, so Eric, we've seen also commercial transport and public accountability as part of the provision in a revised law. What does that mean? What are you trying to do with this?
Well, it's clear. It means that as road users, we all are accountable for safety on the road. So we are going to clearly say, as a taxi driver, for example, what are you accountable for? And as my colleague was just saying, when you're driving on the road and you're approaching the zebra crosswalk, the first thing to do as an accountable driver is to look right, look left, see if there are any pedestrians that are attempting to cross the road. Then you slow down, right? And for every road, there's a design speed limit and there's a posted speed limit. As a driver, you should be aware of that. It is incumbent upon you to be knowledgeable about the road you are driving on. So all of those responsibility and accountability within the law will be clearly spelled out. For example, as a heavy vehicle driver, right? There are certain roads that you cannot maneuver on. They're not built for certain size of vehicle. There are certain speed limit you cannot exceed. There are certain things you can't just do. And the accountability is there. So if we clearly say where you're supposed to go, the speed limit you're supposed to drive on, and you exceed that, that's where the enforcement and the penalties come in. So the provisions within the law on the different users will be very clear. You're a keke driver, you're a motorbike rider, you're a taxi driver. You will clearly see, what are your responsibilities and what you're supposed to be doing while you're on the road. Because remember, your actions can either lead to the death of someone or it can reach your home safety.
Okay, but then there's another part here that talks about driver rest periods. How does that apply to commercial driver? I'm driving my commercial vehicle.
Okay, so
why do I need a rest period if I don't want it?
So the conversation I've been leading with the drivers, I think the drivers get the issue is because we spoke to some of the drivers sometimes, some years back. They said when they take the commercial car, the driver, some other person report $10,000. And that is, he said, okay, you drive one contact this morning, came back, you went back for the second time. You'll be a bit fatigued. Take at least a 1 or 2 hour rest. The concern is no, because if the 2 hour rest, how do I report this $10,000 and how do I cancel the home? So they don't rest. They don't rest.
They drive through. But by standard, there is a number
you come
of
near
hours.
The microphone.
Yeah.
By standard, there is a number of hours that anyone, for that matter, let's consider this not even the commercial drivers. Anybody driving a motor vehicle, by standard, there are certain hours that you should be beyond the wheel.
Okay.
There's a certain time that the eye can focus, the mind can stay alight. After you pass that time, trust me, like he said, you get fatigued, you get tired.
So how do you expect the police to enforce that sort of regulation? I mean, how will police know that this guy's been riding all through the day and all
okay,
of those?
so
what the destination check?
So that was trying to check. So the police got to work along with various unions. But before you depart, you give a ticket, and when you reach at the point of destination, you get a ticket. So the police, I think this is what enforcement issue. They got to track that moving through there and see as water how many trips are made in the day. I think they sign your rest. So
I just wanted to mention that the Liberian National Police will be heavily represented at the validation exercise. When we are coming back here, we have a member from the Liberian National Police to speak on the enforcement aspects that I mentioned within the law. Remember, that law is a vehicle and traffic. And the enforcement of traffic is squarely within the responsibility of the Liberian National Police.
So let's close on the environmental aspect of the new law. What does it say? How does it apply? The environmental aspect or provisions.
okay, so some of the environmental issue on the law we have to do with air pollution, driving in school zones.
So when you have a smoky vehicle, you are not allowed to apply the rule?
Yeah, so you got to. The first thing, you're not just causing pollution to the public, but the disturbance of noise you're going to cause in and harming other people. So this is the reason we need everybody aboard. The EPA has to be part. This is the reason to be part of the validation to give they get their own view how we can put some regulation in the law to for some penalties for those who carry these updated vehicle. The vehicle may not.
So when you talk about noise, are you also trying to quantify in terms of volume of noise? Because there are some may have lower noise, but then it's a noise as well. Yeah, but then there are others who have very high noise.
But you know, sometimes when they call trucks and power, you hear boom, 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 boom. Not every sometimes in the hospital zone, you get a hospital on a patient in the hospital there, which is on some emergency front, and that noise alone, even the pollution alone, can cause health hazards. People get lungs problems, people get asthma. When they hear this, it will activate the asthma.
So before we close out, the noise is measured in decibel, if I'm not mistaken. I think I remember. So the limit of the amount of noise that a person can take. In fact, the earphone you have now, it says after certain volume, you should take it off, right? Okay. So all of that is under the provision of the environmental aspect. Okay. But moreover, environment is a very important issue nowadays. So we are not going to compromise that within the vehicle and traffic law. We're going to consider everything that has to do with the environment, or at least from the vehicle and traffic law that will affect the environment. That's why we've got the EPA represented in a validation exercise.
Anyway,
And there will be several validation
anyway,
exercises.
I think most of it will be addressed in the individual working that policy, working the policy. Most will be addressed into it.
Okay, so thank you very much. Maybe you can just say your final words or call people to go to the program or whatever.
So I want to encourage all those who are part of the first validation, the current Associate Justice, Councilor Boy Mechanic, who are part of the first validation, the current advisor of the President, Councilor Benjamin Keita, part of the past validation. I don't want to encourage them to come over to provide the expertise because they were part of the initiation. I want to encourage Councilor Beno Clark, who are the consultant. She has to come over there to provide the details.
Okay.
Because when they are the OMAT, the work will be easy, smooth, and we'll learn easy what we want to learn.
Eric, quickly.
Yeah, thank you, Edward, for this opportunity. I'll quickly let to mention that we've had extensive communication across the board to all of the stakeholders responsible for this exercise. They are all aware that they should be ready for tomorrow. We are going to commence the validation exercise. We want to thank the Ministry of Transport for the collaboration and coordination so far, for putting this out there. I know this is a difficult thing to do, but for the fact that the minister has been very firm on making sure that we have this validation exercise and make sure that this law is revised, it shows that they are moving in the right direction. Remember my opening comment. I said we need a strong fundamental for us to be able to push the ministry and the government to do the right thing in terms of road safety. And I think the Lord is one of that.
Okay, thank you very much. And that was the voice of Eric Gabriel Jen Georges. He's a road engineer. He's a trained road engineer, and he's also the executive director for the Road Safety Action International. These folks are advocacy group that they are working, especially around the road sector, promoting road accountability and ensuring that the roads are safe. And then we also have Aaron Zuba is acting coordinator for the Road Safety Secretariat at the Ministry of Transport, and together we were talking about road safety and accountability, the different aspects of the accountability, the government responsibility to ensure that there are safer roads, the driver's responsibility to ensure that they are trained properly in using the road well, the pedestrians' responsibility to ensure that they observe the different road signs and different procedures, and their rights as well. And sadly, that's all the time we have for this edition of the program Accountability Hour. We'll be back here, God's willing, next week for another edition. Until then, my name is Edward Blamo. Bye-bye.
Shine a light on every corner, clear and